I must admit I got this fight wrong. Credit to Sniper, who commented on my initial video saying that I'd got it wrong. I agreed to disagree with him, but yeah, you definitely got this one right. The fight went 12. It was a fight that Groves won by wide margins on the judges' scorecards. I think two of the judges scored it 10 rounds to 2, one of them scored it 9 rounds to 3. I had it about 10 rounds to 2. I think Groves won a very, very wide decision. However, it's one of those ones where the margin of victory doesn't give a clear picture of the fight, because it was quite a competitive fight, more competitive than I thought it would be. In my pre-fight video, I thought that I predicted that Groves would win the fight by an early stoppage and would look totally dominant, and I got that wrong. Having just sat through and watched the fight, which was an entertaining fight, I think I overestimated Groves and I possibly underestimated Rebrasse. Rebrasse is a real tough guy, real strong, real fit, got an amazing chin. At no point did he look overly hurt or overly wobbled. Groves is a very big puncher at super middleweight, and Rebrasse was really, really durable, took everything Groves threw at him and more, and looked strong throughout the fight. Didn't look like he was about to get stopped anytime soon either. So I'll admit I got that one quite badly wrong. In terms of the fight itself, Rebrasse was limited. He was quite one-dimensional. A lot of it was him working off quite a weak jab. He was quite focused on throwing a straight 1-2. His jab was quite rigid, quite sort of robotic, if you like. Didn't have too much sort of snap or elasticity to it, if you like. His movement wasn't spectacular. He was pretty much standing in front of Groves and throwing this jab. He didn't have too much variety to his game. I'd have liked to have seen a bit of side-to-side movement, a bit more body punching, bit more variety to his punching, etc. And he probably wasn't in Groves' class in terms of boxing ability. Having said that, his fitness and his toughness created a real entertaining and a real close fight. And credit to Rebrasse, because he did really, really well. In terms of the fight itself, Groves did look okay for a European level fight. Groves' jab was good, his movement was solid. It was the George Groves we all know, and I think he put in a sort of 6 out of 10 performance, I'd say. He did enough to win tonight against an incredibly durable opponent who's probably quite hard to look good against. There were a few concerns that I have about Groves, having watched the fight as an elite level fighter. Now, these concerns aren't necessarily going to be an issue at British level or at European level, but they're certainly going to be an issue if he is to step up to world and elite level. Carl Frotz, maybe Durrell, maybe Abraham, etc. The first is that Groves is quite hittable. Rebrasse caught him on a number of occasions. Groves took a few shots to the chin in this one. Now, Rebrasse isn't the biggest puncher out there. His record, he doesn't look visually to be a massive puncher, and his record, I think of his 22 wins, only 6 came by way of knockouts, so he's probably not the biggest puncher. And Groves was alright. He didn't look hurt tonight taking shots from Rebrasse. But it was frustrating after he got knocked out so badly in his last fight that Groves was so open to taking shots in this fight again. It's not like he was getting smashed all over the ring, I don't want to suggest that, but there were numerous occasions where he took shots that you didn't expect Groves to take from a fighter who lacked the movement and lacked the sort of variety to his work, that Rebrasse did. My concern is if Groves had taken those shots on the chin from someone who can whack a bit, like a Dirrell or an Abraham, who, both of them were mentioned for his next fights, would he still be on his feet? I don't view Carl Froch as a massive one-punch knockout artist. Sure, he can hit hard, he's got damaging punches. I view Froch as the kind of guy who wins fights like he did against Lucien Boutte, flurrying on people, being relentless, wearing people down. But I don't view Froch as a one-punch knockout artist like we saw in the Groves 2 fight. So, if he's getting knocked out like that by Froch, who I don't view as a one-punch knockout artist, when he's in against the likes of a Dirrell or an Abraham, both of whom are renowned as punchers, there is a possibility we could see a similar knockout, unless he can, keep that chin safe. And the fact that he was so open to getting hit on the chin, the fight directly after getting knocked out like that, was a real concern. I thought Groves would be more inclined to move around a lot more, be real defensively minded. But yet again, he managed to get himself involved in a war, involved in a scrap. There was a lot of fighting from very close range, a lot of inside fighting, and I questioned whether that was really playing to Groves' strength. It reminded me slightly of the Kenny Anderson fight where Groves got dropped, where he, really got sucked into a war, and it turned what should have been a routine fight into quite a tough victory. A similar thing happened tonight, and there were a lot of times where Groves was fighting inside. He was fighting, right next to Rebrasse, just from 6 inches or a foot away. And that really isn't playing to Groves' strength. He's a real mover. He's a real boxer, and I think he needs to use that skill set. He gets dragged into a fight too much. Look at the Froch 1 fight. He was dominating that fight, winning all the first rounds, and then he got into a brawl with a brawler and ended up costing him the fight. So there's a few concerns there, really. Like, why is he getting sucked into fights? Why is he fighting on the inside? Why is he taking, clean shots to the chin? That could be a real issue if he goes in with a Dirrell or an Abraham. He got away with it tonight because the guy was limited at elite level in terms of his skill set and wasn't a massive puncher. But he needs to make adjustments. He needs to make real adjustments. I think the other slight concern is there were times, don't get me wrong, Groves came on strong at the end, but there were times at the fight he looked tired. He looked like, and obviously you will be tired in a 12-round European title fight. I'm not expecting him not to show any signs of fatigue, but he's been a fighter at times who started fights very strongly, like the Froch 1 fight. And tonight, he started off really well in the first 3-4 rounds, and then perhaps round 7, 8, tonight, Froch 1, you're starting to see a few signs of fatigue, like he's blowing a bit, and I wonder whether he is as effective a 12-round fighter as the likes of a Carl Froch, who seems to come on strongly into the fight. So there's another concern there. I think he needs to make some slight technical adjustments, specifically relating to his defence, and I think he needs a big tactical shift so as he's, to put the emphasis on his movement rather than getting sucked into an absolute war. Someone like Alan Booth might be a very good trainer to, make those tactical changes and adjust those technical issues that I think he has. Paddy Fitzpatrick, he seems to have a great relationship, but he's not a trainer with an elite CV in terms of his, the guys he's trained and, the sort of fights that his guys have been involved with. So I question whether that's an elite level partnership. Fitzpatrick looked good in the corner. He came across as quite calm. He made some sensible points. He was very smart when he was talking to Groves about not going for the knockout in the 12th round, for example. So he does serve a purpose, but whether he's an elite level trainer to match the elite level fighter Groves wants to be, I'm not sure. And I think Groves, if he's going to be a world champion, is going to have to stop getting hit He's going to have to stop getting into wars, and he's going to have to use his assets, which are his jab, his movement, and his good punching power. So all in all, I'd say it was a respectable performance from Groves, a 6 out of 10 performance. He did alright. He did enough to win at European level, but there was a lot of room for improvement there, and there's going to need to be improvement to step up to world level. As I say, I got this fight wrong. Credit again to Sniper for his comments on my initial video. You got it right on this one, Sniper, so congrats. It'd be interesting to see where Groves goes next from here. I think he's made constant reference to wanting the quickest way to a world title, not the easiest. I know Dirrell has said he's not going to come over to the UK after, he perceived his brother got robbed against Froch in the UK. He's also said that he doesn't view Groves as a worthy challenger, having been stopped twice by Froch and coming off a victory against a fighter of Rebrasse's record, which is arguably a fair point. So there's going to be a lot of politics and difficulties with Dirrell. There's also scope for Dirrell to take a voluntary defence, I think, before fighting Groves as a mandatory. So it may well be that the Sauerlands look to set up the Groves versus the winner of Paul Smith and Arthur Abraham. So there seems to be a few options out there for Groves. Be interesting to see where he goes from here. He called out Carl Froch, who was at ringside again after the fight. Said that he wanted to do a third fight next year. Froch said, Froch obviously doesn't like him, told him to keep dreaming. I think it's more likely Froch will have to go and fight the Gale for his mandatory rather than, I don't think he's that interested in a third Groves fight. But you never know, if Groves maybe wins a title, perhaps that does become possible again. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Satisfactory from Groves, a few concerns. I'm not yet convinced that he is elite level. I think he's strong European level with the potential to be elite level, but I think a few more adjustments need to be made. I'm interested to hear people's thoughts on this one. How did you score the fight? How would you rate Groves? How would you rate Rebrasse? Do you have my concerns? And where do you think Groves should go from here? Thanks for watching.